What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to this episode of Split Screen D&D, the place where we're attacking all things Dungeons and Dragons from both sides of the screen. I'm Tom Quinn, resident Dungeon Master here at Modern Myth.
And I am Josh Winans, resident player character here at Modern Myth. So, Tom, last time we talked about comedy and levity and all the fun, happy things.
Yeah.
But I think we both know that at the D&D table, that's like 1% of the time. 99% of the time is horrible, gruesome, just the worst of the worst, also known as drama. Oh, drama.
Oh, drama.
So if we talk about comedy, maybe we should talk about some drama.
Okay, I like that. But before we get into the drama, looking at all you people out there, for all those of you who are already crushing it down in the comments, have already smashed that subscribe, smashing that like, doing all those things to drive that algorithm and drive us towards the mythic 1,000.
Ooh, then we make millions of dollars, right?
Oh man, you know how much money you get when you hit 1,000 subscribers?
Like 50 cents.
It's roughly that. But that's not who I'm talking to today. I'm talking to you, madam or sir. You know who you are. You're watching this, and you haven't smashed that subscribe button yet. Well, you got to do it so you can catch up with us next time, and the time after that, and the time after that, and then you'll probably get bored with us and unsubscribe. But give us that chance, all right? So...
Yes, that sounds like my marriage proposal right there.
Well, you know, I knew it was gonna win the day.
Yeah, right,
you know?
right.
It's you're still happily married.
Yeah,
so
you know, she's still subscribed.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys so much. Dive in. Let's get into some drama. Yeah, we've touched on levity, and which I do think tends to be kind of the silver lining of a broader cloud. Let's say. So talk with me a little bit about drama. Where do you want to kick this one off at? Drama's a big topic. It's the topic. Really.
I was about to say, and that's probably what your campaign will consist of. Obviously, table to table is different, but every table should have quite a bit of drama because it's kind of like. So I guess a good space to start is like, what is drama? And I think I remember I looked up the definition. It's the exploration of self or the exploration of the world and all its interactions and how your character interacts with the world, how they think about themselves around the world, how they interact with other people. So, I mean, when you think about that, it's like, well, that's...
So it's D&D.
It's D&D.
It's the whole of... It's every TTRPG, really.
Really, right. So, going off of that, I think where are the problems that can happen at a table with drama, where drama can be a problem, and when is it just greased up, running on all gears, and everyone is just, yeah, what's happening next section? Can't wait to sit down and have drama. It's weird, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I think one you already kind of nailed on is the, let's say, a dramatic divergence. I think there is drama that fuels excitement at the table and drama that does the exact opposite. It drains from the experience. And I don't think you can't universally prescribe this kind of drama fuels excitement and this kind of drama. You know, that's going to depend on your players. That's going to depend on your table. It's going to depend on your campaign. But I do think that drama is very much a double-edged sword. I mean, it's literally, and I would actually throw directly to you. I've used the term conflict brokers when describing DMs in past episodes, and I think more or less the nature of brokering conflicts for your parties to engage with or not. But you're brokering spaces in the world wherein conflicts can exist. If there's no conflicts, there's not much for the DMs to do other than create a conflict. Or, I'm sorry, there's not much for the PCs to do other than to create a conflict, create their own drama.
Right.
Which sometimes is fabulous.
I was about to say, like, that's a totally cool thing to talk about,
but so do you think it's fair to say that alongside that whereas maybe I'm creating a conflict, what I'm actually the commerce we're trading in that conflict is drama. Is that a fair encapsulation of what what a DM is doing in creating spaces where conflicts exist. For instance, you're in a little town and you hear a rumor that the princess was captured by gargoyles.
Okay.
Cool. So you just heard that rumor.
Okay.
Could be true, could not.
Right.
Maybe you don't give a shit about that princess, and so
Okay.
you're like, whatever, gargoyles, have at it. What?
That is not nice.
But maybe you hear about mining revolts down in the south. Maybe you
Right.
hear about whatever.
whatever it is.
All I've done is basically handed you the thinnest of threads for these conflicts, and then at that point, you guys get to choose if you want to unravel the drama encased within that given conflict.
Okay.
Is that a? Do you think that's a fair classification?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm sure there. If I had like hours to think about it, maybe I could. But I
You're saying I'm wrong if you thought about it long enough?
Well, because I know you. You'll trap me. You're a trapper. Yeah. No. Okay. So let's run with this.
Bam! I knew you were going to say that. Now I've got you. Actually, I didn't. I didn't at all. But
I need a moment after that. That was not staged. He scared the shit out of me just now.
sorry,
It's all right.
Trying to
Okay.
keep you on your toes. Trying to keep things dramatic. Now, here's a question.
Yeah.
Was that drama fueling energy at the table or detracting from it?
That was attracting. That was attracting. 'Cause now-
Detracting?
yeah, I did.
Oh.
I'm not engaged anymore. My parasympathetic system has. I think it's parasympathetic has engaged.
You were
in-
going into flight or fight.
Yeah.
Was it flight or fight?
It was freeze.
Oh,
Everyone forgets about the third option.
the coveted fainting sheep moment.
I screamed and went back. So I guess that's running. But anyway,
Anyways.
coming back on conflict brokers before you screamed and make me scream like a girl on the internet.
You're welcome, internet.
I totally agree. But so where are you going with this? Like,
Well, I mean, in thinking about the topic, I was thinking about that and going,
Okay.
and I think there's more to be said on, do all conflicts generate drama? Because I think some conflicts can generate levity, 100%.
yes, yeah,
But-
of course.
By and large, the nature of conflict tends to, conflict is an expression of tension.
Mm-hmm.
And I think tension is certainly more a dramatic solvent than tension is a comedic solvent. Not
Yeah,
always, but
yeah.
So I'm just
Yeah.
trying to kind of outline the
Yes.
the space. So I was just curious how you thought about that.
No, I totally agree. I'm reminded of I think in high school I learned it. Where you have the intro, then you go
That rising action?
That rising action, which is conflict, and then you have the why can't I climax, and then you go down in resolution. So that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I wanted to get a sense of, is that a fair classification?
Sure.
And so, if so, kind of what are the implications of, if you're brokering conflict, is that's your primary modus operandi, that means that primarily you are brokering in drama.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, at the point in which that's instantiated into the game world, there's a transfer there, I guess. That's my
And
my thought process.
if I'm understanding what you're saying, there's a give and take, right? So you're giving me some drama, and I'm giving you back something. Is that kind of the brokering thing? You're talking about?
And I think the idea of like how you're responding to the potential for the
Right.
the drama is encapsulated in the vessel of the conflict
Right.
that exists in the world.
Right. So totally give and take, and that's the interesting thing about drama is how hard do you go into the drama? How soon do you let off the gas? Do you keep your foot on the gas the entire time? When do you notice that you're like, oh shoot, I have not enough like we're gone into negative where it's not even stalled. We're going in reverse. Like I think that would be an interesting thing. So that's a good question. Do you consciously, I guess this is almost a pacing question. Do you consciously think about, I need to ramp up the drama, or the conflict? That might be a better word for it.
I'd push back a little bit because I think really one of the few, when you really boil it down, all I really have is conflict. I mean, and all you really have is resolution or exacerbation. I mean,
Okay.
as as a player character, you can exacerbate a current conflict,
Okay.
or you can resolve it.
Okay.
And the resolve tends to lend levity,
Right.
and exacerbation tends to lend drama.
To a degree, but let's say by solving the problem, like we fight the what we thought was the big bad to have resolution, right? So we resolve the conflict, but it turns out, it was only
That
just
was the mini boss,
Right.
you dumb idiots.
And then the guy in the background who laughs was like, ha ha ha, he was my servant all along. And
he's also wearing like a commissar's get up,
Right.
And like for some reason, as long as his heels are together, he can like do this like weird
Right.
float around thing. And
so I would say, like, as players, like, of course, there's a time, but majority of the time we're seeking resolution. We're trying
100%. I agree. I think to some extent that's the broader push and pull. Is I'm going, here's a conflict. Here's
Right.
3 conflicts. Here's 5 conflicts. Whatever. Here's a world that is in conflict, and you're going, what is a meaningful enough thread to us to unspool the drama encapsulated within, find resolution, and subsequently the catharsis of that resolution.
Right. So how do you get them to take the carrot of the?
Well, I just think I think that dialogue is exactly kind of what you just outlined. Is you are striving for resolution. Well, let's say if you are a hero, if you are a villain, you are likely striving for exacerbation of conflict.
Right. Yeah. Just take everything we say and flip it on its head.
but as a hero, I really do think that, and I think I think to some extent, you're going to appreciate this. There is a dopaminergic
Andrew Huberman.
exchange that's going on between me going, hey, did you hear those whispers about something that's not right in the world? And you're going like, as it happens, I'm the kind of person who makes things that aren't right in the world right in the world.
Right.
And then you go do it.
Right.
And I think that the doing it, I mean, on top of getting your experience and getting your gold and getting your,
right.
but the doing it is the whole reason to even play the game. Is like, why are we doing any of this?
It's for the stories.
If for you guys to not solve problems that exist in the world.
100%.
And I think that ultimately that's something of a tug of war. Is I'm going like, hey, there's a problem.
Right.
And you're going like, here's a solution.
Right.
And I'm going like, oh, but did you hear about this other problem? And now if I go, hey, there's a problem, and you go, here's a solution, and I go like, but that wasn't the real problem.
Right.
Now we're starting to see that drama beginning to
ramp up.
And that could ramp to a place where it's like, okay, some opportunity needs to be there for you to, bring it all the way back to the point where I'm extended now and things are pushing back towards that levity space that we're talking about. So that I think is the real push and pull.
Right. And I think it even makes sense in the leveling system, like especially in the beginning of D&D, as we've often lamented. Beginning, like there's so much conflict because every little thing, because you're so vulnerable. Yep. And then as you get to this 15, 16.
That milk's not going to retrieve itself. Old Bessie has been producing crazy this year.
Now it's time to churn the cheese.
Who's going to churn the butter?
Yeah, you don't churn cheese.
It's D&D. It's a fantasy world.
Right, anything can happen.
Now, butter cultures and cheese is churned. This is the world that we're in.
Don't question my world.
You're going to be a great DM. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Anyway, so is it more? So I like the tug of war thing. So it's a give and take. And do you ever put it as a DM? Do you ever be like, all right, MRFers, I'm gonna set you free in this town, and be like, okay, let's see what happens, and see if we can find our own drama. Does that happen much, if at all?
I think the goal is that should always be the case. Now, if you've come into a town en route to solving a different problem, well, maybe the problems of that space. I'll use for our own campaign. You guys stopped in Stone Mantle really as a launching point to get to Vensa. For context for people at home, Stone Mantle is a major mining city. Most importantly, it is the largest airship hub of the entire world. And
airships.
The only means of really launching to get to Vensa, which is the floating island that resulted in the crater of Stone Mantle.
Right.
So you guys arrived there and you caught wind. This is a perfect example. you caught wind of some of those rumors.
Mm-hmm.
And you caught wind not just in Stone Mantle, you caught wind in a number of ways of things that might be transpiring in Stone Mantle. But you guys were on a trajectory already.
Right. We
now,
couldn't stop. And
I mean, you could, but
Well.
at obviously not insubstantial cost, especially to Aster, who had a very large pull to get to Venza. But it's a perfect example of, I think Stone Mantle really reflects how the rumors are there, whether you're in a position to pursue them or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because otherwise, if the only time I'm creating rumors and opportunities to go places is, or I say the only time I'm brokering conflict is when I know you've got a pocket full of cash.
Yeah.
Then all I'm doing is railroading you into the next adventure.
The
idea should be, is, as far as I'm concerned anyways, is that the whole world it's more drama than you guys can ever deal with.
Right.
Legitimately, like it would be like saying, hey, solve all the problems in the United States.
Easy. Give me an afternoon.
Do I have at least 15 minutes? All right, done. But it's like, it doesn't matter how 5th edition level hero you are. Like, you could be Superman, and you might cause the world to start rotating in an opposite direction. That still doesn't solve all the other problems in the world. And I think part of the drama of the world is also tethered to the fact that there are dramas you will not unravel. That is
so hard for me, though.
That's I 100%. I don't think that should be an easy thing, especially for a character who is a heroic entity who wants to solve problems. But I think part of the dramatic tension that exists is precisely in that decision. What's important enough to invest yourself in, and what isn't? And again, in the exact same way, if I said solve all the problems in the United States, which problem do you start with?
Oh, that would be, I don't even want to say any of the one because it just launched a who knows
We're going to get into the weeds. but my point being, there are so many, like that you could spend every day of the rest of your life trying to solve every problem.
Right. And
there's going to be 100 times, 1,000 times, 100,000 times more problems that go unsolved than will be solved.
Yeah, gosh, but that's so as a player, especially one who is a completionist in like 99% of the video games I play, that's really hard. And that's I think a thing that I grapple with at your table is it's like for example, I've come to terms with the fact that I might not get my belt of giant strength. Like, that is pretty legitimate.
Hold the phone. Say that one more time. Say. I'm going to look in the camera while you're saying. You look in the camera while you say it. Say it.
So the item that I wanted before we even started the campaign, that was almost like, I want this thing. Please write it into the campaign. I'm coming to grips with the fact that I might not get it or want it due to the fact of what it might do to the campaign.
One, that's massive. I think as a player and as a character, that's massive to say I may not get this thing that I really, really want. My follow-up is, do you feel like you have a decision?
Yes, but I've this technically yes, right? I could be like, you know what, fam? Good luck, cat, with your brother. Don't give a shit about that guy. I'm gonna go to the mountains and have Actually, I think it'd be a lot of fun, but I'd totally go against my character. And I hate the phrase "that's what my character would do," but it's sometimes a good guiding light. And so in this case, Kel would not abandon his friends. He wouldn't do that.
So I'm going to say something, and we did an episode on information that shouldn't cross the screen. I'm going to 100% say that if we weren't running this channel, I would not say this to you. If this,
this is the whole reason why I don't give a crap about anything.
I hate doing this. I hate being here every week.
This is the only reason I do this. All right, what?
That is precisely the type of thing that I think a DM hears and goes, I don't want him to actuate on his character and it be penalized for doing so. Now, my point being,
oh, it's just like I got a little hug from a little angel.
My point being that the first question or the follow-up question that I had for you is, did you feel like you had a decision? And I don't ever want a player to go, there's this thing I really want, but I'm so railroaded into this other option. I can't even do what I want.
Right.
Like, that to me that sucks. That's bad.
Right.
that is not to say that getting the things that you want shouldn't be very difficult decisions sometimes.
And it's not like a difficult, like, oh man, it seems like a hard adventure. It's difficult as in like
Narratively,
and with the relationships at the table as well.
Right. And I can honestly say I didn't anticipate this being the case. I mean, Stone Mantle, which you've gotten some inclination might be
Metallurgy, was that the word?
Wow.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm done.
It's the only note I've taken the entire campaign.
The world is yours. Yeah, that I mean, like, but in no way. I mean, I frankly, I don't know that I could have anticipated that we would get to this place where, again, for context for everyone at home, Kel has made a promise to Katarina to go back and help her ensure that her brother is safe, from the clutches of her uncle, but has caught wind of the viability of this item potentially being
a whole technology, really.
Yeah.
Just super dope. The imbuing of, anyway, keep going.
Being in Stone Mantle. And just by lay of I mean, a good example being if from square one, Katarina had said, the thing that's most important is we go get my brother right now.
Mm-hmm.
And literally you guys leave Orstitch and head all the way to the Sword Coast. That would be done already. And then there would be no question in the works. But as things have played out, it just so happens that now she really feels this crunch that she needs to get back.
Right, after this.
And there's this pull of, do I go after this thing I really wanted? But I will say, when as a DM, or at least from my way of thinking, I feel a big time sneeze coming on. Take over the mic for 1 second while I not sneeze in everyone's face.
So, what do you call cheese that's not yours? Nacho cheese.
All right.
Okay. You ready?
I'll never have to sneeze again. I'm gonna
got some more.
I think I managed.
When are 10
no. That's all right. That's all right. Also, hold on. Drop it in the comments if you want to hear more of that, because there's no reason I have to interrupt him, but I legitimately, the sneeze has passed. So yeah, sorry. More of Josh Wine's stand up will come if sneeze presents itself.
All right.
And now I've completely lost my train of thought.
So we were talking about going to
so pursuing something that's important to you.
Right.
But as a DM, hearing you say, how can I possibly go after that thing that is arguably, as items go, the most important thing I could be pursuing?
Yep. When
I've made a promise to me, that literally expresses exactly what you'd want any of your players to ever, the headspace for them to ever be in, is I have difficult decisions to make. I'm making a decision. It's a hard decision for me to make. I really don't want to have to make this decision, but it's what I need to do. And as a DM, I just want you to know that that's a real-time process of digesting that and going, I hugely appreciate that you are taking that decision serious enough to not go like, well, I made a promise, but fuck it, I really want this thing. And like whatever decision you make, but that doesn't fall on deaf ears. I think I can speak for a lot of DMs when they're witnessing their players doing witness him when they're doing things. And this boils down to when players are doing things that are not in their best interest mechanically, that are not optimized. As a DM, I always watch someone do something, and I'll go like, I know they know what they could have done there that would have made more sense mechanically, that would have made more sense from an optimization standpoint, that would have been a more expedited path to levity. But they're choosing the path that that stalemates the drama for their character. And that, for DMs out there, I think I'm preaching to the choir here. Don't let that fall on deaf ears. Don't let that not resonate with you as the rest of the narrative is unfolding.
Give me my inspiration is what I want to.
No, fuck inspiration.
Anyway,
inspiration, terrible. And I'm not going there.
So, that's interesting. So, from a player's side, having difficult decisions, it's not fun. In the way that it's like, I think I can speak for a lot of people out there that life has many decisions and that we have to make decisions all the time. And there's such a thing as decision fatigue. And then when we come to the table, it's like, man, I am sick of making hard decisions all the time. Now, sometimes 100%, like if I was asking every freaking encounter, the belt on giant strength is like, that's, I mean, how many times we've made a couple of like decisions like this. But yeah, I would caution, and I think this is a good time to talk about, is kind of the pacing of drama, that if you are constantly putting your players in what you would call really interesting decision-making things, that's going to wear us down. It doesn't energize us. I'm trying to think of like when I make a hard decision, do I feel good afterwards? Not really.
Well, would it be fair to say that it depends on the outcome of that decision?
Could. But there's always that part of me who's like, I wonder what would happen if I would have done the other thing. Even if it was really good, I always wonder. And like that questioning is something I don't particularly that can wear on me.
Yeah. Oh well, I can 100% see how, especially again as I think you use the verbiage a completionist, like the notion of what if, what if I had done that, what if I had helped them instead of going down this other path, what if, and 100%, I think that's a completely valid perspective for a world. I think the danger that you run on the other end of the spectrum is
it's railroad almost. And
well, it's just, hey, when you guys finish this next deal, like it doesn't matter how many taverns you visit between the start of this quest and the end of this arc, no one has anything going on until you complete that, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, there's problems in the world again.
Right.
You know, so I 100% I agree, and I think that comes down to that management. I would say, and again, this is not to say that every table and every world needs to be rife with conflicts for the players to solve. But I would also say, and I guess to some extent, I'm saying this to you and to the rest of the table. Hey, ladies, when you're watching this, because you're subscribed, and undoubtedly you will, because you're doing your due diligence to drive the algorithm.
All hail the algorithm.
Aren't you? All right. Now that I've laid it on thick, that I really don't think that we've talked before about the division between TTRPG and video game space. By and large, you fire up Skyrim, there's no quest you can't pursue if you choose to do it.
You can literally do everything.
Literally, the time will stand still for you to do it.
Yes, which is hilarious.
And I think that's just one of the divergences, at least for my way of thinking. Again, there might be DMs out there who just go, "You do anything you want, and I'll pause the time scale." But given, I mean, I think you guys are intimately familiar with this at this point. I don't think you should consider every conflict that you hear a whisper about me calling you to action. It's an opportunity to, but by and large, I would much rather produce more conflicts than you guys could possibly tackle and allow you to go, this feels meaningful. This compels me.
I think that's a really good word to use. What is meaningful?
Yeah,
I like that.
And I think that to your point, if every time you're hearing a rumor in town, you're feeling like I'm going, hey, this thing needs to be done, and if you don't do it, time's a ticking. Because frankly, time is a ticking. But old Geraldine's cows that keep getting attacked at night, maybe at this point in the campaign, that's not the type of problem that you're interested in focusing on. And like I said, I hear loud and clear, and I completely agree. I don't disagree. This does not mean that I have a flawless record of not inundating you guys with tough decisions. But I completely agree with the idea that if you guys have to make tough decision after tough decision, that's fatiguing.
Right.
100%. I agree with that. And I'll say that I think I think that if we haven't found ourselves in that bog, we've certainly walked on the edges of it. So that's an acknowledgement for me as a DM going, we have spent enough consecutive time in the dramatic space of making tough decisions. Interestingly enough, I think too, though, that like we talked a little bit about the what is kind of the traditional 3 or 4 act structure, depending how you want to think about it, with the components of narrative that consequential to that process is effectively you've got status quo, rising action, which is introducing conflict. You arrive at some climax and then the resolution. But broadly speaking, if you're talking about a series of these that make up a story, resolution resolves to a more complicated state than the original status quo.
Yeah.
So that a series of these arcs result in your broader arc.
Right.
And so I think to some extent, and I think it's interesting because we're talking about this. It's interesting because I think in our levity conversation, we were very dialed into our own campaign and what was going on.
Yeah,
and to a greater or lesser extent, I hope everyone at home can appreciate that we're 2 guys talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and it just so happens that some of this actually applies to what we're doing in our
it.
well, most of it it should apply. But I think the natural consequence of moving into high tier D&D is that the first arc has compounded with the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth, and we now are existing in a space that is very close to the true climax of. And I think even as a DM, that feels like a more dramatic or more tense space, even after resolution, than
I see what you're saying.
you know what I mean? So I like to the same point. It doesn't fall on deaf ears that even resolutions don't resolve back to the full
Baseline.
Exhale,
Right.
And I think
Level 1 shit.
part of that is inherent to just the trajectory of narrative arcs, but it's a good consideration when we're talking about the brokerage of drama and in the subsequent episode, or I should say prior episode, levity, is that there might be more work to do on the levity front to help temper some of that.
Right.
So,
and I'm thinking about the arc. I think I kind of hinted at this earlier. It shouldn't be a smooth lines, right? It should be up and down, and like there should be nuances there. And maybe you have your resolution, and then you go up a little bit, and then you're like, you know what, we're gonna go down a little bit. All of a sudden, you know what your job is now. Your town is being attacked by
goblins,
sure,
kobolds.
I was gonna go with undead, but I love the defend the city against the undead thing.
The city is pretty tight.
It's very tight. Not a lot of decisions need to be made there, right? It's all about just
Get it done.
Here's a question. So we're talking about levity and drama. Action is another, I think, kind of thing. Is action its own thing? Is action separated
Can
from
you
drama?
define action for me?
Combat, like chase scenes, anything where time is like really narrow. You're just like little things matter a lot. So yeah, chase scenes, combat.
Well, I would assume anyways that combat exists in the realm of drama. Chase scenes exist in the realm of drama. Now again, if you are chasing the escaped gingerbread man from the magical bakery, maybe there's as much levity as there is drama there. But by and large, I think action is a product of or or disseminates drama, generally speaking. And I think we're speaking in generalities for this whole episode, broadly speaking. But, I think it can really depend because I think that. Well, I'll ask you. Let's run with that example. If the next town you walk into, a kooky, gnomish, magical artisan baker has lost his gingerbread man. I'll say it feels a little trite for level 12, 13 heroes.
I just smite everything.
But just the whole display case, all those pastries are going up. But it's, I certainly I think that's action. I guess I think where I would draw the line is I guess more in a space of player induced action versus narrative induced action. Because I think and I think this to some extent gets to the heart of a little bit of what we were talking about with the push and pull of the build of narrative and the build of drama and kind of its natural progression throughout an arc is a space that is, let's call it, void of dramatic intervention save that which the players instantiate. Even as I'm saying it now, it feels like a peaceful place where you come to a town that is by and large functioning normally. And it's literally a matter of the drama or levity that you as players inject into that town. Yeah. Do you opt to host there's no bards in our group, but let's say they go, you know what? I'm putting on, these people seem like good people, and I'm going to put on a show in the town square, and we're gonna ramp things into what is.
Well, I could do like a cooking thing.
Perfect example. Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, perhaps you acknowledge the downtrodden in the town, and you go, you know what? In fact, this harkens back to Dunwood a little bit. It's kind of the Undercity, and it was a tremendous moment of levity that you and Reek opted to. Rest in peace. God, he was such a noble cat.
Was he? Was
no,
he though?
He actually wasn't. He was the opposite.
He was hilarious, but he was not noble.
But so I think kind of to your point is, or if I'm hearing your point, I'll be curious here. Yeah. Does this ring true?
Okay.
That there are times in which a DM should relinquish their responsibility of being a broker at all and simply allow you to exist in a space that is this is a double-edged sword, as with many things. It could be a very boring town in which I have not injected any conflict and any drama, but it can also be a very interesting space for you to inject your own drama or your own levity. And
maybe. I mean, I never want to throw anything out, but in my mind, it'd be more like it's one. So you set a stage. The town is this stage, and there are different parts of the stage that have different things you can interact with, right? So you're not pushing us to interact with anything, but the things are there to interact with, right? Versus you dangling a carrot in front of our face during the stage. They're like, hey, there's a guard, like a person runs up to you on the street. Our queen has been kidnapped by a Bowser in another castle or something. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. If any Nintendo company wants to use that, you can.
If I was running it, it'd be a princess, but a queen's fine. That's okay. Yeah. I mean,
but anyway, so I could see that being a total thing. But just to have a completely blank stage and us to make our own, that would be kind of interesting. Let's say like a dream state. You wake up and I don't know, because it almost couldn't exist in D&D proper, but just be like, hey, nothing's going on. What do you guys want to do? Rare.
Well,
once a campaign.
The thing is that I think that to some extent, something is always going on. I mean, it's again like
a real live breathing world. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not to say that the conflict. Farmer Jim and Farmer Bob are, at odds with one another. They're, that might be this whole little settlement that you've come into. There's a land dispute about this 1 acre that happens to be the two corners of their property. You might go, I don't give a fuck about that.
Right.
But I think the important acknowledgement is if I go, hey, here's a space and here's 3 conflicts that you're hearing about.
Yeah.
By all means, if none of those interest you, create your own levity or drama in that space, something that energizes the table to, that. And I think that's part of that push and pull is, I might instantiate a town and have all sorts of ideas about the motivations of the inhabitants and the conflicts that exist within, and I might totally miss the mark. Just none of that interests you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going, none of that interests me, we don't want to do any of that, then you're simultaneously acknowledging that now you fully have the reins on levity and drama, and it's in your hands to do something like that. Because I'm now in a space where I'm actively having to create a new conflict for you guys to exist in. But even better, like I said, I think this is really the way it should be is, hey, here's a space. Here's some interesting things that are going on in the space. Mm-hmm. But if I'm the only one who finds them interesting, do something that interests you.
Well, and then you have because I automatically, something that we don't do much in our campaign is downtime. Once if you run into a town where just not a lot's going on, you got some downtime. What are you going to do to fill that space? Then I think it is character driven. Like, I'm going to go hunting in the wood. Like I say, I want to go hunting in the woods to see if I can bring in some money, or I'm going to go into an underground pit fighting arena and see if I can become pit champion guy,
or drink some random green liquid.
Wake up in a gladiatorial pit.
Find yourself fighting robots.
Fight with your bare hands.
Bare hands.
Dude, I kicked ass too. That really happened. But so I think that might be a place where players can kind of like create their own drama, and then you have to react to it.
Well, and I think, frankly, as a DM, it's a lot more exciting to be holding on to those reins while the players take off with them. Mm-hmm. That's like I said, if there's things that you've instantiated that are meaningful, but I think the danger you run into is if you go, well, here's 3 things that you've heard about, and they just go like, none of that really interests us. Let's grab a beer. Let's just hang out. Well, again, then at that point, I think players should be cognizant of this. Like, hey, as much as we talk about kind of the immersion and the division between player and character knowledge, if I'm going, here's 3 threads that are going to lead you to dramatic places.
Right.
And you go, I don't want to pull any of those.
Yeah.
That's a perfect time for me as a DM to go like, show me the thread you want to pull.
Right.
Because frankly, as a DM, that's some of the most exciting gameplay at the table but if that occurs and the thread they want to pull is, I want to spend 3 sessions drinking beer and talking in a tavern, at some point, I think then the DM goes, all right, a guy comes in screaming about a problem because, so it's that push and pull of the dramatic versus the release.
And they're right there. I think it's also a matter of reading the table. If the players are like, you got these like, are assuming somewhat interesting things, like some interesting carrots to nibble on, and they're like, no, going to go nibble on the bar where no shit should be happening, just so we can get some. That might be a sign of like, hey, drama has been going a little hard lately, and we need to decompress a little bit, which I know we've talked about plenty in our own campaign. And so I think that's a matter of reading the table. If that's what you're seeing they're doing all the time, maybe you're pushing them too hard in the drama category.
Well, 100% could be the case.
Yeah. To your point, it could also be that they might be, okay, none of these things excite me. Well, so if this is what they're doing, if they're going like, those threads you gave me, they don't excite me, therefore I'm not going to engage with them. I'm going to sit in this tavern until you come up with a cool thing that excites me.
That's the point. Then
that's the players are like being kind
of... Well, and like I said, it can go both ways, 100%.
Yeah.
I agree that sometimes players need to just blow off steam and have some beers, but I think that absolutely consideration should be given is... If you're just waiting for your DM to instantiate another thread, that's not the tact. The tact is, none of those interest me. I'm going to go down that alley that you mentioned that had no carrot, but I'm going down it because I want to see what's down there.
Right.
And you're going to sniff out your own thread.
Right. I want to see if this town has a thieves guild.
There, perfect.
Yeah.
And like, I might go like, holy shit, I didn't consider if they're, yeah, I guess they do. Like,
right.
And again, it's like, we've talked about the DM flow state. That is exactly what pushes you into a DM flow state, as far as I'm concerned, because I like running in the space where I go, maybe I've only given a cursory consideration to this or none at all. And it's like, now I really need to, like if people are tugging at the easy carrots, that's not to say that those aren't viable threads and they might be meaningful to the party. But I really think that the times in which a session ends and I go, holy crap, that was nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes it's because the threads that I've spooled up were by and large rejected and someone decided this is where I'm taking the session.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's a great thing. But kind of like you said, I think the danger you run into, and I'm speaking to players right now, there's nothing wrong with rejecting the carrots that your DMs floated out.
Yeah,
but
this is also hard for us to think about because it's that notion is so foreign for most of us.
Well, yeah, I think it can be tough, but I think part of the aspect of role play is to go, do I actually care about this?
Mm-hmm.
Like the DMs presented that this princess was captured. We just came off some harsh shit. I don't give a fuck about this princess.
Castles I went to,
yeah.
and there are all totes saying she's in another castle. F this girl. I am done.
Do you know how many airships? Those shits are deadly. I've jumped on so many bullets. You wouldn't believe it.
Going really slow, oddly.
Yeah. They're very subsonic rounds going there. But I do think that as players, consider this. By all means, and I think, I hope I'm preaching to the choir. Reject the threads that your DMs put out there. There might be DMs out there going like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying just reject them for the sake of rejecting them, but if they don't speak to you, part of your DM's job in floating those threads out is assessing what might be meaningful to your party.
Yeah.
If they've missed the mark, by all means reject them, but don't reject them and go, when you come up with something I am interested in, I'll go after it. Reject them and go, this is a different part of the city that you didn't dangle a carrot in. I'm going there. I want to check that out. Like, there has to be movement. Like you talked about action. Mm-hmm. To me, that's when you said action. That's why I was kind of asking you to define it.
Gotcha.
I don't think it needs to be explicit in we're in combat, we're in chase. It's just the party is moving forward in a meaningful fashion. Mm-hmm. It could be in a direct, like I might go, how about this carrot, and this carrot? And you go like, we're going that way, like away from all three of those carrots. And I go, sweet. There's meaningful movement in a direction. It doesn't have to be the direction that I've teased, but the worst scenario, and I think players and DMs can acknowledge this, is when you've got this funnel shape and you go, here's 3 carrots along the rim. And the party goes, well, I don't want any of those, so I'm just going to slide down this funnel into the tavern where I'm going to drink until a carrot presents itself.
That's not productive.
And what that results in is a DM, as far as I'm concerned, going, they clearly weren't interested in what I created. I want to see what they do with this space.
Right.
Because it's not that, it's not all the time that they're just sitting in a space where they are completely in control of where this goes. And
I like this idea a lot. Like, because you're talking about trust with your players, right? And this is totally what this is like you're relinquishing control of your world. That's hard to do.
I'd go so far to say as to say there's very little time in which I can never make you pull one of those carrots. I mean,
we can make the carrot like the biggest, dankest carrot.
Yeah, I could go. The guy kicks in the door and goes like, the dead are rising from their graves, and I just found a belt of giant strength. And if you can kill me, like if I really want to pull that, if I really
that would
want
be a good carrot,
but
paddle on dead and belt. Oh, that'd be dope,
sweet. But generally speaking, it's the idea of here I've dangled these 3 carrots.
Yeah,
and I really think all players should be considering how effectively did my DM assess what's meaningful to me?
Yeah.
If the answer is not at all, then go do something meaningful to me.
I like that.
Because I promise you, I can't promise for other DMs, but
He says mildly with confidence.
I say with roughly a 15% confidence that all DMs love it when you. But I mean, it's a meme. It's a meme because I think players do oftentimes go in a direction you don't expect. If you didn't love sitting in the seat and enduring that, and I use enduring in the least pejorative sense, because frankly, I think my favorite sessions, if I were to pluck out my top 10 sessions, 8 out of 10 of them are going to be sessions where I literally was holding on for dear life. Because it's the portion of the game that is emergent for me.
Right.
If every time I throw out 3 carrots and you grab one of them, I go like, I've got a pretty good idea where this goes. I mean, again, there's infinite number of opportunities for you to diverge from where I think that path leads.
Right.
But again, like you took the carrot, maybe you come to a right and a left, and I'm confident you're going to take a right. Maybe you take a right, maybe you take a left. Maybe you come to a 3-way, and I'm confident you're going to take the middle route. And
Tuesday.
It's
sorry.
Ooh, but like at each junction, I have weighted how likely I think it is you're going to take each path. Like in terms of, and in many cases, those paths don't even exist yet. You're literally going down, and I go, okay, this is playing out. If they kill this guy, that's the right path. If they let this guy live, that's the left path. Like in real time, I'm having to go, how does this break down?
Right.
But I think all of that's predicated upon the fact that you ate the first carrot. If you don't even eat the first carrot, now clearly from every point thereon, I'm living in an improv space, and that to me is a gift. That's a gift that players pay to their DMs on occasion. Again, I can't speak for all DMs, but I know that most of the sessions where I go, wow, are the sessions where I thought I had a sense of where you were going to go, and you went somewhere totally different.
Yeah.
And as much as it's griped about in meme form of like, spending 3 weeks building out the greatest big bad encounter only to have players make friends with the sheep and depart the town without ever exploring that avenue.
But you have a sweet sheep.
You do have a sweet sheep now.
Oh my gosh.
Again, I think as much as it's griped about, if DMs didn't enjoy that, they wouldn't DM for long. Players do it all the time. It's part of what makes sitting in the DM chair great.
It's a cooperative experience.
Yeah, and I think so. That is a call to players to do not rely on your DM to hand you the drama and levity. We're talking about drama specifically here, but I think it rings true to both. You will have a hard time not coaxing a smile onto your DM's face when they take that left turn that they didn't think was even a possible consideration.
Right.
And I think that, and I think frankly for players, when you are manifesting your own drama or your own levity. I mean, that's not to say that DMs can't do it also and can't disguise it well enough for it to feel organic. Or in some cases, it even is organic.
Right.
But I really think that the moment in which that flow state where truly the narrative is emergent, it is nothing that the DM has conceived of beforehand because they simply couldn't have. The drama and levity that arise from those moments really are the heart of what is TTRPGs. And anything shy of that, if we went through our whole campaign, we spent 3 years literally you guys just taking the carrot that I give you. I give you 1 carrot at every town. Yeah. Well, I've just written a book. That's all I've done.
Yep.
Which is so. Yep. So and it's like when the chapters start to spool by and you're struggling to blot them down on the page as a DM, that is a very special and unique moment to TTRPGs as a whole. And so DMs, I hope people aren't shying away from the opportunity to cling to those reins and just be along for the ride. And I hope players aren't, I I hope players aren't going, well, we can do nothing until he or she gives us something that we're wanting to chew on.
Yeah. Which that's which I haven't really considered that too much. But yeah, hearing what you're saying, I think we're coming to our takeaways. How cooperative drama is. It's not a DM thing, because I think in players' mind, drama is the you feed us kind of a thing. And I think you're missing out hearing what you're talking about and looking back. Yeah, some of the most fun things is when we kind of took the reins, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to drink the green liquid. Let's just see what happens.
100%. Literally having explicitly informed you that should not be drink. There's no way I would have assumed that you. Well, given Kel, I maybe had like a 1%.
And I'm going to be totally honest, I totally forgot.
Yeah, but again, it's like it's beautiful. The absolute obliteration of the Condor, which was the other.
That was a shit show right there.
But again, it was a great time.
I was laughing the entire time.
And the beauty is I think those moments, like, and I'll challenge. This is what I want to hear in the comments.
All right.
I want to hear from players and DMs, like, because I don't know how much people are or are not reflecting on this idea, but the moments where things are just going nuts.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that was because you tugged on the thread that was the low-hanging fruit your DM has provided you to tug on, and how much of it was you going in a totally different direction, or just going, this is what I want to do. I don't, and I think that again, maybe people are reflecting on this all the time, but I think if they're not, they're going to come to find that when they reflect on this, DMs are going to go, that was a great session, and I was totally ill-prepared to run that because of what my players did.
Yeah.
That was a cool opportunity, and it's because I took the reins and I pulled us in a direction that I felt it was important to go, even though the narrative didn't support it, even though it was important that we went this way.
Yeah.
I think that I'd love to hear those experiences in the comments. From a DM perspective, do you agree? Are you finding a tremendous amount of enjoyment in the sessions where your players really take things off, just into the weeds?
Mm-hmm.
And as players, I guess I'd be curious to hear, how frequently do you feel you are doing something that the DM totally couldn't have accounted for? And how frequently are you kind of painting within the lines?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think probably players have an understanding of when they're tugging at a thread that the DM's given them, and maybe when they're doing something that is totally
just fun.
outside
I'm not
of the
gonna
box.
lie. I'm like, oh, let's see what Tom does when I went into the bar and ordered the drink at the red, the fling red.
Oh yeah,
I was like, there's a part of that
still stands as one of the most comic book, just badass moments.
That was literally like, I want to see what Tom does when I do this.
It was also the first time I think you ever used command effectively.
Shut up. I have the worst fucking track record with
Yeah.
any of my spells. It sucks.
But it was pretty gnarly.
It was.
This old, grizzled veteran guardsman draws his blade. He's about to get down, and you basically just go like, drop it.
And he does.
And it was just it played.
It was. You had to be there, internets.
Yeah. As with so many D&D things, you really did have to be there. But and again, I'll commend, like, how much was I prepared for you to sucker punch the barkeep and almost start a scenario where you were going to be arrested by the guards? Zero, or very, very low. Like, right. I mean, I was completely on my heels, and it was so brilliant that I went like, well, the guard has to respond. I have to do something about this. And then you responded. It was
us working
poetry at the table.
Yeah.
And that, I think, as much as DMs, again, in meme form, gripe about their players going off the rails, going all the way into the weeds, I, for one, and again, hopefully the comments will reinforce this. Maybe they'll be like, "No, fuck you, dude. Stop
I know.
saying that."
I was about to say, like,
I love it. I love it. But the thing is if you don't like it, I seriously question, why are you sitting in that seat? Because players do it all the time.
yeah, and
You
maybe
know.
that's a weakness that you can develop through exercise and like, yeah,
100%. I think it is something that you learn to roll with those
Right, right.
punches. And in the no prep episode that I did on DM and the PM, it's exactly
check it
this.
out.
Check it out if you haven't. It's like a year old, but it's literally that. It's get comfortable with that process because once you embrace it, it's the most fun as a DM you'll have at the table. No
Gotcha.
doubt. So
But we probably wrap this up.
yeah, time to wrap it up. Give me your final thoughts, and we'll take it on.
Kind of like I was saying, drama is not the. I think as players we often like, okay, DM, feed us our drama. It's a cooperative storytelling narrative, and don't be afraid to embrace it. This has emboldened me that that I have more control over the world than I thought I did. And that's maybe a scary thing for you to hear me say, but it's also like kind of empowering, which is a good thing for a player to feel within limits, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I mean, I think I'll echo all of that, and I will say that I think the notion of that should be a concerning or the notion that you have more control than I think many players have more control than they realize they have over the narrative, over the drama and the levity, over all the components. I mean, I think important thing for people to remember is the DM is one of 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people sitting at a table that certainly they have a modicum of control over some things, but don't discount your ability to impact the world and drive the narrative as a player at all. And I think that many DMs, like I said, I'm fully prepared to be wrong about this. Many DMs
Roast them in the comments.
really will embrace the idea of there's nothing more invigorating than watching a player grab the reins. Because the moment that a player you can see it. They go, this is important to me. I'm doing something right now. And they literally yank them out of your hands. And you go, and when they do, you kind of go like, oh, fuck yes, let's see what happens. Like, and they're if as a DM you're clenching those reins tightly in those moments, try relinquishing them and watch what happens because it will be the most meaningful moments I think you will see your players engage in. And the more comfortable you get just being the sounding board, boom, you're throwing drama into the world. You're throwing levity into the world. And it's my job to just return volleys. I'm the wall as you are practicing,
man, tennis. So I used to play tennis, man, and the wall is the worst opponent ever, man.
Dude, the wall. Nothing will get you better at tennis than
so
playing
true.
against the wall. For those of you who didn't know, we existed in an era where people still played tennis.
Tennis doesn't exist anymore?
No, it's gone. It's gone. No one plays tennis.
Oh,
Actually, I know tennis.
What's that pickle thing? Have you ever played the pickle thing?
Pickleball?
That thing's awesome. I love pickleball.
Pickleball's pretty awesome.
Anyway,
for those of you who hadn't gotten your pickleball fix, but
we're going to become a pickleball channel.
Yeah, we're pivoting away from this whole tabletop RPG things. If you're into pickleball, you're going to want to visit next week because
and there goes like all the subscribers,
like 40 unsubs in one evening. Yep. But it really is that. It's like a perfect world. I think you are the wall the majority of the session.
Right.
Like that's the dream. It really is, and it's it's borderline a nightmare. It really is, but. When you wake from it, like if you've managed it well, it was a really compelling, exciting, wild experience that you can't wait to get back into. And
it's a drug. That's what it sounds like. It's a drug.
I've been chasing the dragon for so long.
You need another shot. You need another. Just one more. Just one more.
How are we taking this one out? Keep it simple?
Yeah, keep it simple. Hey, it's a cooperative. Drama's cooperative.
Hey, from one DM and one player to all of you DMs and all of you players out there, however it is you're managing your drama, however it is you're managing the levity within your game world, the beauty of the TTRPG space is that those DMs and those players, the world is yours.